Hey, 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 brothers.
What is up?
Hey, what's good? What's good?
Yeah, that's my
So
boy
we got we I mean
Gene and
first we have
TL.
to announce that right. We have to announce that we have a new brother joining Unbreakable Souls, our brother A.L. Johnson here.
Uh, what's going on, brothers?
Man,
We excited
definitely
to
want to
have you,
welcome you
man.
to the fold, man. Definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Definitely happy to be here. I appreciate you guys.
Right.
There's
yeah.
nothing like
Yeah,
being in the
so
room with other strong brothers, so I appreciate
yes,
it.
sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. So I know that we've had you on the show before, but if you don't mind, can you just kind of give us a little short bio of yourself so we can highlight you again?
Come on, come on, come on, Black Hole.
I'm a man. I'm a son. I'm a father. President of Elevating Men, as you kind of see there under my name. Elevating Men, we're a 501c3 organization. Our goal is to help men live happy, healthy, healed, and productive lives. We do that through research, and so we seek to find out, why is it that men suffer from depression at higher rates than women? Why do we suffer from sudden heart attacks, depression, suicide, all those things? We also advocate at the state level for policies that need to change to increase access to mental health services. We provide support in the form of subsidies. And so for men that need help paying for
Yeah.
therapy, that's one of the things that we help out with. And then our last pillar is education because we don't know what we don't know. And so we try to
Right.
educate men in the areas of finance, health, spiritual wellness, physical fitness, and the whole 9 yards. And so that's who I am. Outside of that, I sell life insurance. I've been doing that for 15 years. And so I'm all about generational wealth and, helping families support themselves. So that's what I do. That's what I do. And then I'm here with you all. Unbreakable Souls.
Beautiful.
I love that title too,
Yes,
Unbreakable
sir.
Souls, because
Yeah.
um, Gary, he was just here for me in a moment of transparency and a moment of weakness. And as a man, to have someone to be there to support you through those moments is important. But when you say that something's unbreakable, you can't actually say that if it hasn't been tested,
Come
right?
Right.
on, man.
And
Come
so,
on.
like when you have a car, it goes through its production, and you can't give it a safety rating until you've actually bashed it up to see how safe it actually is. That crash test
Right.
dummy is real, and so to be on a show called Unbreakable Souls with two other men who I know at some point in life have been broken in some way or tempted to be
Oh yeah.
broken, but you're still here, you're still standing. I heard Eugene talking about therapy, and Gary, you guys talking about therapy
Yeah.
a little bit, and so. Yeah, the Unbreakable Souls title is fitting because
Praise
we
God,
are
man.
unbreakable. Yeah,
Yes,
Well, we've
sir.
been
Yes,
tested, man.
sir.
We've been vulnerable in this show. There's been some tears from big strong men of God on this show,
Right.
because we're all about being real and being authentic. So I am my brother's keeper. Gene has had my back. I've had his
Yep.
back. That's how we roll,
Yep.
man. And we just welcome you to be a part of that.
Yeah.
love it. Happy to
Absolutely.
be here. Grateful.
Yeah. Yep. It's a blessing, man. Yeah. So we're doing number two of relationship trauma. The last one was a heater. I already know with AL here and Dave and Izzy back and Coach G. It's about to be nuclear. So I'm looking forward to getting into the show.
Yes, yes. So, hey, catch me up a little bit. I wish I could have made it last week, but what were a couple of like highlights or key points that you were able to take away from the show?
Man, that we all have experienced relationship trauma that stems from childhood trauma, um, you know, and we all have to find that I guess that healthy path back to healthy relationships, constructive, uh, man, just the ability to communicate. Um,
Mm, mm.
yeah,
Yeah, that type of show is important. One of the taglines with Elevating Men is that strong men build strong families and strong families build strong communities. But for us
right,
to make change in the world, it really does kind of start with the family, and it's that
right,
relationship, that connection,
right.
how we interact in the household, how we raise our children. All of those things affect everything around us, and so these types of shows are extremely important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It's a blessing to be doing this, man. Just to again, just like walk the path and then kind of show people, okay, this is how I walk this path, and these are just some tools to help you kind of see pitfalls and and holes before you step into them through
Oh
through
man,
other people's example.
I was listening to a show this morning. It was Dr. Umar Johnson. He was being
I
interviewed,
love him.
and oh man, me too, me too. And they were talking about how the opposite sex parent has a large bearing on how you view relationships in the future. So, meaning if
Yes.
you're a boy and you don't receive love and attention from your mother, then when you go out into the world and you seek relationships, you have these unrealistic expectations, or you're completely
Right.
closed off to emotion. And so when you hear women
Right.
saying, men are emotionally unavailable, sometimes that can
Right.
actually stem from that childhood mother-son relationship. So it was a
Right.
good one. I have to send it to you.
Yeah.
Well,
Please do.
that,
Please do.
that's a good segment into the video that's about to pop in too. So, um, Mark, you want to throw that up?
Our brains are wired for connection, but trauma rewires them for protection. That's why healthy relationships are difficult for wounded people. Do these words speak to you? Trauma can come from many difficult sources, and sometimes this includes those closest to you, your family. Negative experiences you had growing up, or even heavy responsibilities and expectations placed on you throughout your childhood can often be too difficult to forget. Psychologists call these adverse childhood experiences, potentially traumatic events that can happen from a child's birth until they reach adulthood. According to Centers for Disease and Prevention, these events are linked to chronic health problems, mental illnesses, and substance use problems in adolescence and adulthood. So even as you grow up and replace the family you were born into with the family you choose for yourself, it's still hard to let go of the trauma. It seems as if the ghosts of your past come alive and try to make it all about them once again. And even if you know in your heart that your partner is not the parent who hurt you, it may not help. What kinds of trauma can one experience through their lives, and how do these traumas impact their romantic relationships? Let's explore 4 types of trauma and their effects on your romantic life. Rejection trauma. Let's start with the trauma of being rejected. Rejection trauma is born in a home where we're made to feel like we don't matter. Try to think back into your childhood. Were you always pushed away? Do you feel like you're not worthy of your parents' time? If instead of love and warmth you felt rejected, you may have carried that feeling with you. And today, you might find yourself fearing rejection all over again. Only this time you may feel rejected by your romantic partner. A 2015 research paper published in Dialogues in Clinical Neuroscience examined emotions that occur when people perceive rejection in their relationships. According to researchers, rejection trauma could make you feel hurt, jealous, lonely, ashamed, guilty, socially anxious, and embarrassed. All of these emotions can later negatively impact your relationship and your self-esteem within that relationship. For example, psychotherapist Amy Morin said for Very Well Mind that people who went through rejection trauma may interpret rejection as proof that they are unacceptable in some way. If your partner is too busy to spend time with you or doesn't reply to your message right away, you may say to yourself, "Yep, I knew it. They don't care about me." Do you sometimes think like this in similar situations? The reality might be, and often is, completely different, but you still may perceive it as rejection and take it personally. Maybe you believe that you only matter if you're accepted by others, or you might struggle with constant fears and worries, expecting rejection to inevitably happen. Abandonment trauma. Hand in hand with rejection often comes abandonment. As children, we depend on our parents to feel safe and be safe. But in some cases, our parents make the world feel unstable and dangerous. Have you experienced some kind of neglect or abuse that made you feel unsafe at home? Maybe it was a lack of supervision, physical and narcissistic abuse, or staying hungry all the time because you weren't given anything to eat. When a child goes through these experiences, they can't really understand why these things are happening. And often they can explain this only by believing that they don't actually deserve any attention or care. They start to believe that the world is not worthy of their trust, while they aren't worthy of the world. They feel abandoned. Abandonment trauma often leads to formation of an anxious attachment style. A 2017 study published in Current Opinion in Psychology found that individuals with an anxious attachment style may be hypervigilant and worry about their worthiness in a relationship and their partner's desire to be with them. And in some cases, severe trauma can even cause the development of personality disorders such as borderline personality disorder. Psychiatrist Mark Zimmerman wrote for MSD Manual that fear of abandonment is a common symptom of borderline personality disorder. Even if you don't suffer from BPD, you could still feel the same mix of emotions when you feel abandoned by your partner. Anger, anxiousness, and fear. You might react intensely, acting jealous and possessive or crying your heart out, because all you know is that you can't stand the thought of being alone again. Betrayal trauma. Maybe the worst thing about these childhood wounds is the fact that they were brought to us by the people we trusted. People who were supposed to love us more than the world, people who were supposed to be our superheroes. Suffering trauma by someone you are close to and depend on for support and survival is defined as betrayal trauma. Have you been deeply betrayed by someone you loved and depended on? This could mean discovering that one of your parents or your partner cheated, family members justifying abusive behavior, or maybe one or both of your parents engaging in drinking or gambling instead of providing for you. If things like these happen to a child, they might have trouble accepting it or believing it, so they often just suppress it. One study from 2009 published in the American Journal of Psychology suggests that those who suffer from betrayal trauma often dissociate traumatic experiences from conscious awareness in order to preserve the relationship. It's because they're too dependent on their abuser to believe otherwise. And once they grow up, they might continue the same patterns. They might become dependent, feel inadequate to be on their own, and decide to stay in toxic relationships. They might be too afraid to leave, too afraid to be betrayed again, so they just put on a happy mask and suffer in silence. Humiliation trauma. Lastly, your childhood may have left you with a wound of toxic shame, humiliation trauma. Was there a time when your parents made you feel deeply ashamed of yourself? They might have laughed at you for changing body during puberty or mocked you for not getting the highest grade in school. In order to survive feeling ashamed and humiliated, you might have developed some coping mechanisms that you still use to this day. Dr. Linda Hartling said for modernintimacy.com that there are 3 strategies that you might use as a way of dealing with toxic shame from your childhood: moving away, moving toward, or moving against shame. Moving away from shame means isolating, keeping secrets, or withdrawing from your partner. Moving toward shame could show up as codependency or people-pleasing behavior, becoming what you think your partner wants you to be, even if it means losing your sense of self. And when you move against shame, you might try to fight those who shame you. Maybe you use passive aggression or insults to shame your partner before they get the chance to shame you. These strategies might help you cope, but they might be detrimental to your relationships in the long run. Do you feel like some of these trauma types describe you and your relationship patterns? Have you recognized some other childhood wounds that get in the way of a fulfilling love life? Unfortunately, sometimes we may unconsciously seek partners who imitate those who hurt us. Later on, this can lead to trauma bonds within a relationship. Are you stuck in a trauma bond? Take a look at this video and find out if it's a trauma bond or love. Don't forget, you matter. Thanks for watching. Until next time.
Wow. Gene, did that move you as much as you did last week?
Oh, even more so. It's like, man, it just, kind of reminded me of stuff that we talked about last week, and how a lot of, things that transpired when I was growing up uh, translated into the relationships that I had later on, especially this last one. Whew, man,
I understand,
it's
brother.
crazy. Like, I literally
Where's that?
lost myself for years. Lost myself for
Mm,
years. I remember being like 32 and kind of looking back on my life like, who am I? I don't even know who I am anymore.
right.
I wasn't doing the creative things that made me happy, and it had been, you know, I just came focused on working and providing and being who I felt was needed for that person, as opposed to what was best for me, which would be best for all of us. So,
Right.
man, it's crazy.
So, I mean, AL, I know this is probably fresh for you, man. We introduced with this last week before we got our guests coming in right after this, but I'm just really, and I know Gene is too. We talked about this earlier. I wonder where this lands with you, because this is kind of the foundation of relationship trauma.
Yeah, yeah. It's powerful, and honestly, it makes me think as a parent, like just how important our job is when it comes to protecting and shielding our children's vulnerability and innocence. you know, as they're going through life and finding themselves and figuring themselves out. We have a really big job on our hands because we set the tone for the rest of their lives, and sometimes we don't look at it in that way, you know. And so, from 3, 4, 5 years old, before they even really have that conscious memory that sticks with them forever that they can recall,
Hmm.
they're
Right.
already being affected. And so,
Right.
what I got out of the video, honestly, is just our job as parents is so crucial. It's so crucial because we really do set the tone for the rest of their life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's powerful, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And as we said last week, we have a powerful group here. The trio is finally back together. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
excited to dive in deeper, part two, with this incredible and powerful couple, Dave and Izzy Black, that we had on last week. So we're gonna bring them in. We're gonna jump right in this from last week. So welcome, Dave and Izzy Black.
Hey,
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 people.
peoples.
How you doing?
We're good.
Excellent. Thank y'all for coming back.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us back. We appreciate it.
Well, you guys want to
Absolutely.
quickly reintroduce yourself to the audience?
sure. I'm Isabel Black. A lot of you know me by Izzy. And Dave and I have been married for 20 years. We've been together for 24. And it's hard to even believe that a whole life existed for both of us before we came together.
Mm.
So we have three wonderful kids, 28, 25, and 23, and a dog named Moses.
That's awesome. Anything you want to start with, my brother Dave?
Um, no, just my name's David Black. Just kind of like reiterated what Isabel said.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to jump back in from where we started last week when we were talking on relationships. You guys were so instrumental and powerful. Dave, I was so impressed to see my brother come out strong like that. And when I did
Right.
a follow up after the call with him, he was still on fire. And
Yeah.
I was like, dude, we need to maybe do part two.
Awesome.
And he was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's
Yeah.
schedule that. Let's schedule that. So I said, talk to Izzy.
Love
Let's
it.
see if you're available next week. So you could
Right.
Well,
jump
we
in
know
wherever
he
you want,
needs
brother.
to warm up. That's it.
He just
Just a
needed to
little
warm up.
warming up.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I
All
loved
right.
it. I
So
thought it
let's
was so.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
So let's dive in on how childhood trauma affected impacted trust with you.
You want who wants to go first? You want to go first? Is
Go ahead, Dave.
I think for me it yeah it like you said, the word trust, right? And it's like it's it makes you not take chances on certain people, certain
Right.
situations. It makes you real hesitant, almost to the point to where it kind of like stunts your growth, growing not just physically but mentally, spiritually as a person. Uh, and
Right.
sometimes when that happens, we're so stuck in that place. Um, we end up losing opportunities that
Mhm.
Yeah.
have been given to us to be blessed, to bless others and stuff. Not saying that doesn't come full circle back around later on, but you got to step outside that box sooner or later. Obviously the sooner.
Right. I know for me, there just was no trust. There was none. It was non existent. And it was not something I was going to even waste my time thinking about when we first came together. The trust, I had no trust in nothing or nobody. I didn't even trust myself. So it was tough. It was blissful. It was great to find a friend, a partner who I could be myself with and didn't get judged and all of that good stuff. But when things got serious, a couple years in, and he proposed to me, and my the signs were showing up, right? That's why I was surprised why he didn't run, because the red flags were there with me with my behavior patterns. how I didn't trust, I didn't respect, I didn't honor, I didn't give a shit. Really. I was surviving, and if you got in my way by any means, I would clear you out of my way and
Yeah.
I would keep going. So the trust wasn't there at all for me. We talked about that a little last week, and
Right.
it really came in about 11 years in, and we were going through some really tough times, and we really were like, is this it? Is this, we worked really hard to this point. The advice he was getting from my family was run as fast as you can. You can't handle her or anything she's attached to because they know the lifestyle we come from.
Right. How y'all were rolling.
They just would tell him, you can't hang, just cut loose now, don't waste any more time. And he'd be like, what? And I'm like, I didn't know, neither one of us knew how to communicate. So I thought because I talked a lot that I knew how to communicate, but I didn't know how to communicate. And I certainly didn't know how to listen. But trust, it just wasn't there for me. But it was his patience. But we had totally different upbringings, both very traumatic, but opposite types of trauma.
Well, I want to dive a little deeper into what I'm hearing here. Reminds me of a therapy session I was in um, when I was trying to redevelop trust with my son, my eldest son, and my therapist kind of equated it to water. He said, "You have to, Gary, you have to learn to become a river, and you can't change who you are based on how your son responds to you." And I marvel what you just said, Izzy. Even back then, the broken woman that you were at that time, non-trusting, you still were your authentic self. Might have been a little dysfunctional at that time, but you
Right.
still were your authentic self,
Right.
unapologetically.
Right.
And I think, and I don't want to speak for Dave because I want you both to kind of answer this question, and then Gene and AL jump in there. But what was the secret sauce? Back to the therapy session, my therapist taught me to be like water, to be just flow. And there's going to be big rocks or boulders, there's going to be trees that fall into the river, and you don't fight that. You just go around. You don't change
Right.
who you are. You just peacefully go around. You go over, you go under whatever is necessary, but you don't change self. And I think that was a centering moment for me in my life, that I just had to learn to hold my frame in the midst of adversity. And I feel like, I'm not going to answer for my brother David, but I feel like because of his consistency in holding his frame, not even saying he didn't have trauma his own self, or that he didn't have any brokenness his own self, but I think his love for Izzy forged this consistency in him, where he was like that river of water that stayed steady and consistent. So you guys speak to that.
I mean, if I could just jump in with something you said, that you don't have to change, you stay you, but you have to be willing to change when you are called to change. So that accountability. And I think we both just saw what we individually wanted. And we knew that when we combined those ideas, what we would both see for our future, we wanted to grow. We eventually wanted to own a house. We wanted to own nicer cars. We wanted to feel respected, right? Because we were both very much the underdogs. And learning to just be willing to always be willing to evolve and grow and change. Um, they'd come with a lot of years that we were pointing the finger at who needed to change.
Ooh,
There was a lot of years of that. But
ooh,
where we really started seeing a new life, a new way of existing together and individually, was when we started turning inward and just be willing. I don't have to change for you, but you know what? I'm being called something within me, and that's where you have to take time
mm,
to get to know yourself, understand the feelings you're feeling, what your body's trying to tell you when it's talking to you with tension and tightness and nauseous and all of that stuff. Um, I feel like that's when we
so
really
good.
started having the breakthroughs. I will say that we had a lot of support through Dave's family.
Okay.
The last thing they ever wanted to see, because we couldn't deny the facts. The facts were when we got together, within the next year, good things were happening in our life. Like it started just happening. And we were like, okay, so you just get lost in chasing, right? We were like,
Hmm.
okay, well, we just got this job and this opportunity and now this and that. And next thing you know, we're living together. And you start chasing all of that, but his family was very supportive. They did not want to see us apart. They saw that there was nothing but growth since we had been together for both of us, for what we were accomplishing. And that helped tremendously because we had my family saying what they were saying, but then we had his family. So what it did is it made us accountable. Well, now the choice is on us because if we can't take advice, there's two different sets of advice. What do we want?
That's so good. That's so good.
Hey,
What?
Coach, I had a quick question for Dave and everything, because one of the things that I've seen people do quite often, and I'm one of those people that's in the single space, even well into my 60s and everything, but I've seen people that have gone into relationships, and one of the mistakes that I think they make is that they try to change the other individual. And it doesn't seem like that's what you tried to do, Dave. You took Izzy for who she was and all along those lines, and it doesn't seem like you tried to make severe changes to her and all along those lines. So am I misreading that? And is that something that you feel like I do, that a lot of people make that mistake, that they feel that if they go into this relationship, and particular relationship with somebody that's got trauma, that they've got to try to change them, and in some cases even try to heal them, when we know that only individuals themselves can heal themselves. But sometimes people get in that healing mindset where they feel that they've got to
Fixing.
fix the person. That's the word I was
Right.
looking for. So
Right.
and I know that I've even been accused of being a fixer myself and everything. So if you can speak to that, because it sounds like you took her for who she was and wasn't trying to necessarily fix her.
Yeah, no, I can answer that real quick. That's just one thing I did with Izzy. It's like I seen her qualities, the possibilities of the person she could be.
Uh-oh.
I just let her be her. And that's what we got to do instead of like, hey, this is in my next project, and stuff like that. It's like then you feel like you got to pour all this energy and effort and everything else in it. If it doesn't feel that way, you feel defeated. Right? Like that's not even the case. Let them be them. As long as as long as you water and give them sunshine, your love, they're going to naturally grow. You just got to give them that space. Give them that space. Respect their space. And there's times where I think that's just what you have to do. Just let them grow. Keep on watering.
That makes a lot of sense. Hey, Izzy, I got a question for you really quickly if I can. Because one of the things that I also heard you say that I know a lot of people don't pay enough attention to in relationships is that notion of communications. Because I think a lot of people take that almost for granted. And I love to hear everybody, including Coach G and Gene and even AL, because I think a lot of people think that communication is an easy trait. And while I might have majored in journalism, which is a form of communication, it's not as easy as people think it is. So I just love to hear your thoughts about the importance of communication into a relationship.
Right. So I'll be honest, where I really started connecting some of the dots right when we were that 11-year mark, like I was telling you, of being together, I was actually doing corrections. And we had to learn, right, do a lot of courses and classes on factual writing because everything will be used against you in the court of law.
Right.
So it had to be not what you thought was happening, it had to be what
Jeez.
was happening.
Yep. The
And
facts.
as I was training for that, I started seeing where in my life was I putting all the fluff. I didn't exactly know how to change it yet, but I was acknowledging. I'm like, oh, if I wrote this report at work, right, for one of the tests, and then they went through and they were able to cut out all these words that were fluff, but to me, I thought it was authentically what happened. Um, I'm like, I'm doing that other areas in my life. But it, and I thought I was a great communicator. If you would have asked anybody in my world during that time or before, I was the smartest person not necessarily they knew, but I was seen as very smart. I was seen as a good communicator. I was seen as all these things. but they didn't know all the behind the scenes, right? They were getting the experience of me that I was allowing them to get. Dave and my family got the real me. And but I forgot exactly what the question was. I'm sorry. But that's what really helped
No, that's
me
about
with communicating and
yeah.
figuring out some of where I was dropping the ball with communicating while I was pointing the finger at him, because I would outward vomit on people, like the if I could make it hurt more, I felt more accomplished. Where Dave would just get silent, and that would fuel me even more, because the world I come from, you dish it back. You give it back to me, I give it back to you. Let's see who's the last man standing. If it has to turn to blows, it turns to blows. Dave is like, every time I'd be having outbursts, he's just quiet. It's like he's frozen. He wouldn't know what to do. And then instead of helping me through, he would be like, well, does that make you feel better? And I'm like, yeah, it did. Just started all over again. So horrible communication, and we've just come a long way by, again, self-accountability.
Well, I see that as Dave's superpower.
The other one follow suit. It's just what naturally happens when you stay consistent.
Right. I kind of see that as Dave's superpower, that he took away the power that you were trying to push. He shift the energy.
And thank goodness he did. We wonder.
Right.
I'm like, where would we be if we were both the same type of person that way? Where would we be? We'd have records as adults and all this stuff, because it would have been a disgusting place to be living in.
I'm looking at my brothers, boy. Y'all just chomping at the bit to jump in this AL and G. Go ahead.
No, when you guys talked about communication, it reminds me of something in public speaking. There's a big difference between talking and effective communication. And it gets amplified in relationships, because it's not just the words that you're saying, it's your body language. It's the fact that when we talk about love languages, when you connect with a partner, you want to, oh, well, what's your love language? Oh, I like gifts, or, I like affection. I like this and that, but we never really get into communication styles when it comes to relationships. Like, what is the best way for me to approach you with an uncomfortable topic? Do I need to maybe just kind of drop it on your doorstep and allow you to process it, and we come back to it later? Sometimes we try to have the whole conversation at one time when emotions are high and people are frustrated, and that absolutely doesn't work. I've seen that from my own experiences. And so it sounds like you guys got over that communication barrier over time, but there was something that you said when you first started talking about trust. You said that your childhood trauma did not allow you to trust anyone, and that 11 years in, you guys really hit a rough patch and a crossroads, so to speak, where you had to decide, like, are we going to stick this out, or are we going to push through? And so my question to you, Isabella, is what did David do, or was there a specific event that created that breakthrough that allowed you to trust in a way that you weren't able to trust before?
The secret sauce.
Well, to be very, very vulnerable, I betrayed him. I betrayed his trust, and I betrayed our union. I betrayed him as a man. And I felt like, just like every other time I fell short in life, I felt like it was time. We had just reached that point, and this is where he was going to let go. And I was like, finally, like, it's not working. It's not working, clearly. I mean, at that point, like I said, my anger issues, I'd be no to nose with him. I'd be ready. He could have taken me down easy, but that didn't phase in my head when my emotions would take over. And when he fought so hard for me, when I detached, and he just consistently, nothing changed. He consistently made that loving environment for me. I could feel the hurt, and I could feel the feelings he was feeling. But he was like, nothing's changed. I still want to love you. And then that brought more anger, but that anger had nowhere to go. When I was trying to dissect it and make sense of it, it was like, who are you really mad at? Who are you really mad at right now?
That's powerful.
Man loves you.
So can I ask you this, and then Gene, of course, because I got so many questions, but do you feel that the unconditional love that David expressed towards you, and you resisting that initially, did you see that as a form, now that you've healed and gotten beyond that, was that self-sabotage? Did you just not feel worthy of
Absolutely,
it?
absolutely self-sabotage. And when I say the trust wasn't there, the self-esteem wasn't there as far as in our relationship either. I was constantly accusing him, even though he gave me never not one reason, but I was constantly accusing him of waiting to step out of me or betray me or do something. But that's just the world I come from.
Right.
My parents betrayed me, my sister, my brother, um, my children's fathers. I mean, no matter what, I was a magnet to people who betrayed somebody,
Mm.
is what I felt like at that time. And it never stopped me from living life, right? I still would enjoy, I'm like, I found a good man, I'll enjoy the time we have together. But that's really in my mind. I'm like, the time we have together, it's nothing good lasts forever.
Right.
Wow.
Is it?
And when it kept on lasting and he kept, and it was just amazing. It was very humbling, honestly, for me, just to know that exists, period.
That agape love.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question. I'm so sorry. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, this is so good. I wish I was here last week. I probably would have asked already.
I
But
knew it's gonna be juicy for you,
oh
man.
my goodness. So David,
And we haven't even heard. Oh, you going to David? Because I was like, you got
yeah,
to let
'cause
him spit his fire.
I've got to know. I've got to know. So there's a theory that I have. They say that men are the stronger vessel, and generally we take that as men can take more, right? But it's my belief that we're physically strong, but the strength that God placed within us actually makes us more vulnerable. So we feel everything at a heightened level. So when we're angry, it's not down here, we're angry up here. When we're hurt, we're not just a little hurt, we're hurt way up here. And so, my question to you is: it sounds like there was a period of time that you really had to manage your emotions, and that can be difficult as a man. And so, I'm just kind of curious,
Ooh.
like, how did you do that, and then still give your wife that unconditional love that she needed over an extended period of time to allow her to change? How were you able to do that?
Give us the secret sauce, bro.
Um, just trust the process.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is just keep doing what I'm doing, take one day at a time. Um, I just had to, keep trusting. This is the whole scenario. You as long as I show up every day, the best version of me,
Hmm.
sooner or later, she'll get me, and she chooses to. That's not her. It'll be me. You gotta keep watering, just being loved. You know, and so that's what I did. I'm not saying it was easy. Like you said, it wasn't. The pain was there. Um, Around that time, I lost my mother at the same time, so the pain was really bad. And
Hmm.
my mom was a single parent. You know, me and my mom had, and so a lot of characteristics. So a lot of great mom. So, yeah, love and care. Not everybody. I just kept on investing in her.
Yeah, yeah. I think we
Take
can't.
your mic off.
Right here.
You're
Yes,
cutting in and out. Hold it in front of you.
Yeah, you're fading a little bit in and out.
I don't want to miss anything he's
I
I
know.
saying.
know that was fire. I could just feel that.
You were cutting in and out, Dave.
In and out. Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yeah.
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 There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe repeat
No,
that for us, brother.
I'm testing, and because it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to be like call it quits and start all over? Then next thing you know, it's like you pour into this relationship, and let's say it doesn't work out, right? And obviously, people knows, if you get married again, you have 25 or 30%, I don't know the exact number of the marriage actually working, right? And I'm not saying that's for all cases, but it's like, I can, in my eyes, when we got married, we get married once. I'm not looking to get married again. And so I just kept on pouring into Isabel. Even though I was hurt, kept pouring, showing up every day. Some days I had the energy, some days I didn't. But it's like, what is your ultimate goal? That's what I looked at. You know, it's like I shared in the show last week. I remember my older brother, he told me, he's like, Dave, look at it like this. In 10 years, it's going to be completely different. And so that time I had a conversation with my brother, like, hey, in 10 years, it's completely different. It's a different season. You know? And so I kind of held on to that. That's what I went with. Like my brother and sister that Isabel was speaking about earlier in the show also, you know, they're like, you know, and do I stick it out? Do I not? And so like I'm not gonna lie, I teeter-tottered back and forth in my mind. And just not one day or 1 week or 1 year. You know, I'm just like, man, it's just working out. It's just so, but I stuck with it. So it's like you got to make a decision. You got to go with it. You don't make that decision, you know. And I remember my brother and sister, they were like, whatever decision you make, you know, I'm not telling you what to mean, what to do, whatever that's true to you, stick with it. That's what I did.
Hold up your mic, brother.
I said I
gotta hold up.
I said I chose to stick with Isabel, and so that's what I did. That was my choice. Like I said, you know, 20 years later, marriage and 24 years of being together, that I did.
Wow, that's amazing. 24, almost 25 years together. That's a rarity with these divorce and everything that goes on, everything along those lines. So that's truly amazing. Izzy, you brought up a word earlier that I was curious about because I hear a lot of people talking about it and everything, but I don't know that everybody understands it and understands its consequences in relationships. Because even as a single person in my 60s, I've been guilty of it as well. So can you speak a little bit about self-sabotage? Because I think a lot of us self-sabotage. I know I've self-sabotaged some relationships as well. So I just wondered if you could speak to that because I think that it is more common than we like to give credit to it happening. Because I think a lot of relationships that go on today have been very much self-sabotage. So I just wondered your takes on that because you kind of mentioned that earlier.
So
And
to keep
Jean
it simple,
follow up
for
on that
people-
too when she finishes.
Yeah, Jean, this will be a good follow-up for you because it's what you do. But to keep it simple for the people is really any grievance that you have outward. If you're saying, oh, they or that or this or whatever, pause, breathe, and ask yourself that same grievance, how can I do better? The answers will come. It's all within you. If you're attracting it in life, it's because you're somewhere in your life modeling that or being that or accepting that. There's some attachment there. So that's just what I did, and it helped me with my self-sabotaging. It wasn't just with my romantic relationship. It helped me with my relationship with my parents, with my siblings, with my kids, with at work. You know, I don't get triggered so much. Why? Because I know if I'm experiencing something, it's for me to learn something. So I always take it back to self, always. And I release the person or the thing that's frustrating me. I handle business, right? You do whatever it is, you do what you need to do, but don't hold on to it inside because that's what's going to bring the bitterness and the emotional roller coaster. Because if you're tired or you didn't eat that day, that's all you need to light that flame. And then you're on a full roller coaster. So, Jean?
So good.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of it. Trying to audio. I definitely agree that it takes self-assessment always when you're feeling, because everything is a reflection of yourself. Like you said already. You know, when you're going through something, you feel anger. What is it? What's the root cause of it all? You know, the anger is a symptom of something. So yeah, taking it back to it's always me first. I got to figure out what's wrong with me. Yeah. Hey, I was about to say something.
Yeah.
Well, I think you sparked both of them. That was good, bro.
Yeah, I thought it was about no, ladies first.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Honestly, I saw you raise your hand, so I lost my thought. I'm ready to hear what you have to say also.
Okay. No, I was thinking about my own life. Whenever self-sabotage has come and crept up in my spirit, there's three things, and you actually mentioned one of them, Isabella, is self-worth. And so
Mm,
you have self-worth, you have fear, and you have a sense of not being in control. And that
Oh yeah.
those are the three things that I feel actually create self-sabotage, because you say, well, I'm scared that something's not going to happen the way I want to. It's out of my control, and I don't feel worthy of this anyway. So let me take control now and mess it up before it
right,
messes up in a way that
right.
I don't have any control over.
Right.
It's a lot easier
Right.
if I tear this apart. If I grab this piece of paper and I tear it apart on my own, I didn't want it torn up, but at least I did it. I was in control. Versus sitting there and you're just like, oh, something bad's going to happen, and you have to wait for it and wait for it. I would rather sabotage so that I have control and I don't have to have fear. That
Absolutely.
was my thought.
Yeah, but
That was a big deal. Control, and I'll say when I was started being accountable, my relationship changed. When I started releasing control, my life changed. So that control, man, it was, and I still did. It took me a little longer to learn that, because control is necessary at times, right? It's going to take you out of something or into something, but it's not just, it's the knowing that you're not in control. It's your surrender to allow higher source to be in control.
mm,
And that's where you'll find life changing
Right.
things in your life. That
well,
happened to
to,
us.
to your point, for me,
I want to say
self-image.
so. The
Oh,
point
go ahead,
is,
Gene. Go ahead, Gene.
I want to say control of external forces is an illusion. We have no control
Mm,
over things that are outside of us, and I think we have the mindset that if I focus my attention and energy on this thing, I can control it. But the only thing you have control over is the person you see in the mirror every day, and
right, right.
the thoughts that you allow to cause you to act. That's really all we got.
Right, right.
Well, I wanted to address what you guys talked about, self-worth, in relationships. That was my issue, that coming out of a 34-year marriage, I had no self-worth. And now I enter into the world of dating and relationships. All I knew, even though I knew it was toxic for me, was that 34-year relationship.
Mhm.
So instead of gravitating to something new and better that I deserved, what did I do? I gravitated to what I knew, the norm. And
Mhm.
I remember getting into a relationship, and um, it was completely different than what I'd ever expected or experienced before. But quickly self-sabotaged, got out because I didn't feel I was worth that. I was worthy of that. I had to retreat out of that and find myself back into another traumatic situation. Even though, I mean, isn't that crazy
Going back
to
to your
know?
comfort zone.
Right, right. Knowing that I'm entering something that's
It's
toxic
not
for me.
comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But that was my norm. That's what I was used to. As dysfunctional as that was,
I've been there too.
I'm so thankful for healing and growth and release that has moved that toxicity out of my life and now opened my eyes to be able to see, you know what? I can look in the mirror and now say, I do deserve that relationship. I do deserve to be happy. And I kind of feel like Dave was doing that all along. As painful and as hard and as difficult as that was, we're talking about 11 years. Izzy said 11 years is when things shifted and turned for them. So he had to endure this for 11 years. I mean,
Abuse from me, abuse from my family. It was nonstop, and I think what we talk about childhood traumas, I think that's why he was able to stay, because he has strong women in his family who speak a certain way also.
oh, that might be part of the secret sauce.
And I think that's why it wasn't foreign to him.
Oh, Dave, you holding out on us, brother?
You're muted. You're muted.
You muted, Dave.
I was gonna say, I guess Isabel recognizes that. I guess I don't. Outsider, she notices that. But yeah, no, there's like strong women. My sisters, our brother's mom, we called her a stepmom. That was very outspoken, very opinionated. Our mom, strong woman. She wasn't as opinionated. Like she would tell you, hey, like when you're doing something wrong or stuff like that, she would let you know, but not to the extent like my sisters and our stepmom and stuff. But yeah, no, it was like Isabel says, yeah, like we've had situations where it would get physical, like with sisters and stuff like that, and it's just like, okay, then the time would go on and whatnot. So yeah.
So
I
I
actually
would
have a question.
go ahead. Sorry.
You go ahead, brother. You go ahead.
No, I was just curious. I've been in situations where, like you said, abuse. There's a broad spectrum of that, of course. But David, the thing that I'm wondering is, whenever you hit a low point, which I'm sure you had to at some point in the midst of all
Had
this,
to, right?
how did you like pull yourself back up? I know that you had the thought process when you were dealing with your wife and saying, I'm going to love her through this. And, the next 10 years is going to be better than this 10 years. But how do you, as a man personally, pick yourself up, go to work the next day and continue doing what you had to do, irrespective of your relationship? Like, how did you do that? Where'd you find that strength?
Yeah, I just had a vibe.
And I want to add a caveat to that. I want to add a caveat to that. So add to this question. So when did the point where you realize that you couldn't live in the toxicity that you were experiencing?
That's
Boy,
a good
1-2 punch on you, boy.
Yeah, that's a good question. No, so as far as like to the first question, I just so what I did, what helped me a lot, and I didn't realize at the time, I started going to the gym, right? Kind of mind off and stuff.
Release.
So like I went to the gym and like I'd hit it hard, and then it got to the point like before work, then I would start going after work. So I was doing like 2 a days and stuff. Then I noticed like I started losing some weight, stuff like that. And so like that would kind of help me keep not thinking about stuff all the time per se, right? And stuff. Then I invited Isabel, hey, let's go to the gym together. And so we started getting in shape together. And we wouldn't say a whole lot. It was just like we'd go to the gym and we'd work out together and stuff like that. So like I noticed like, right, you got to find a connection, right? And that's what we did. And so what was your question again, Gene?
You like come to the point realize that you can no longer exist in the toxicity that you were experiencing.
It was probably
What's
around
that aha moment for you?
It was probably around that time also. It's just we were just like, hey, I think I gave her kind of an ultimatum, and I'm not sure exactly like what timeline, but it was around that time frame. And I was like, hey, you need to. I just told her, I'm like, you need to go see a therapist. I just told her, I'm like, I'm leaving and stuff. And I guess I kind of like forced her to a certain degree, and obviously she listened. She did, and she kind of learned. Isabel could kind of share on that some of the stuff.
That makes sense.
This sounds like
a
a
quick question for you.
The question is
Again, I was doing, I was working corrections at the time. We had free therapy sessions throughout the year and stuff just because of the job. Okay. And I hadn't taken advantage of them yet or anything. And yeah, he told me either I got help with my anger management, which, Gene, that's what I remembered what I was going to say when you were talking, because a lot of people say I'm not mad, I'm frustrated. And that was me. I'm not mad, but I really learned that frustration was just a prettier word for angry.
Right.
So like I had to like keep dissecting those truths and saying, oh, just call it anger. It's what it is.
Right. It's in the same family. Yeah.
But
Primary
that was the
emotion.
control
Right.
also, trying to manipulate the words, and everything. But I was working corrections. He told me he knew, we had resources, basically, is what I'm saying, at our fingertips. And we did seek counseling at church. We went to a family therapist. But that was after. But he did tell me right before that either I get anger management or he's out the door. And my process at that time, my recklessness, I had the attitude of bye. Like, I'm the same person you met. Now you can't hang. That's your bet, not mine. And so that was how I would respond right off the top. But the more as I sat with it, right? Because you say those things and then you have to sit with yourself, and these things do play back in your mind. And I'm like, you sound like an idiot. Like, you have kids, you know what I mean? And stuff. That's what Dave would always tell me when the kids would scream or yell at each other, and I'd get mad at them for not being nice to each other. And he's like, where do you think they're learning it from? It was those hard truths. And I'm like,
Wow.
it makes me mad, but I'm like, I had to sit with it. And I'm like, well, there's truth to that. But how do I change it was my problem. How do I change it? I got the help, and what I realized, I only went to like 2 sessions because, again, the answers are all within.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
he did for me, the guy was asking me, what do I do in these scenarios? And we had to share, we had to come to the realization is that, just like AL, I believe, said earlier, we process differently. Dave feels something and it's, let's handle this shit now. Me, my feelings come forth immediately. So I'm like, you don't want to talk to me right now. Let me cool down, because I will say all kinds of crazy stuff. I need to calm down. I need to leave and take myself away, because I knew I couldn't control myself. I already knew this about myself. I was in and out of the detention center as a juvenile, because once I hit that point, my thought is, your ass is going to the hospital. That's where I'll be satisfied when I'm done with you. And I didn't want to be like that anymore. So what our therapist suggested was that we schedule. They're like, all he needs is a peace of mind that it will be resolved.
Wow.
And time to fizzle down.
Yes.
Wow. That's so good,
So we
man.
started doing that. It was like, I can't talk now. Okay, this happened at noon. Can we talk at 3:00? And I promise we'll sit down, and stuff. And we started practicing that, and everything took work. Everything was practice. But I have to say, we did try the things that were being suggested to us to help us to mend our relationship and grow in our relationship.
Sounds like the start of
This
your
conversation is
A
real
lot of
deep.
ways.
This conversation sounds real deep. We might have to go for an hour and a half and all along those lines, because I don't mind doing that, because I'm over here at work at HI. So that's up to you panelists as to how long y'all want to go, but we can go a little bit longer and everything. But I do have a question for everybody, which is based on something that happened here earlier at the center, and it was a positive thing. But a longtime friend of mine who is a storyteller is actually next Wednesday, or this coming Wednesday, and you're going to love this, Jean, going to celebrate her 49th anniversary. That's right. I said 49 years that her and her husband have been together, and they're going to celebrate it by going to see ABBA. And apparently ABBA has the most hits right behind the Beatles in terms of like known music and everything. So they are number 2 behind the Beatles. So it's the Beatles, and then it's ABBA, which I think is that Swiss band and everything. And next year they're going to celebrate their 50th anniversary by going to Spain, is what Willa Brigham told me and everything. So my question for Izzy and Dave is, how important is it to celebrate those milestones? Because like I said, we hear about these divorce statistics. So the fact that my friend Willa and her husband are getting ready to celebrate their 50th anniversary in 2025, I find truly amazing that they got married in 1975. So how important is it to celebrate those milestones in your mind?
So it used to be really important to us to celebrate all the milestones, right? Because that's when you prove to each other how much you love and care for each other. It got to a point where we had to stop putting so much behind that and learn to cherish, honor, and celebrate each other daily. So those milestones, I say do with them what you want to. Sometimes we celebrate, sometimes we always celebrate in whatever way, right? We acknowledge. But whether we stay home, whether we go out for dinner, whatever. Now, when we reach 50 years, you better believe we're going to be celebrating. But you have to really, because
Look
again,
at my boy smiling on that one, boy.
I was a person who attached a lot of emotion behind things. So it was just for me another thing of where we could fall short if we put too much into the date or this or that. It's just like make it a daily practice, right? Love and honor each other. I want to feel loved like if it was our anniversary every day, and I want to give that to him every day.
Hey, along those same lines, I had to call Willa because, like I said, the quarters left some items here and everything. So I called Willa's answer machine, and it was actually her husband who was the voice on the answer machine versus her being the voice because, like I said, she is a known celebrity around here, and he actually is singing her praises, saying that you have reached the home of this award-winning storyteller and everything else. So I was going like talking about somebody actually having the back of their spouse. I was like thinking that was a moment of somebody having the back of their spouse because he was the you could hear the pride in his voice even on the answer machine and everything.
I love
So
that.
it was just amazing hearing that.
You know, I speak as a speaker. I speak a lot on wisdom, and for me, because I was always deemed a person who lacked respect, but for me, respect is a very ego-driven thing. I want to honor people, right, who are safe, who are always safe to honor. And back then, now I try to honor everybody, but gosh darn it, where was I going with this? Yes, you know, we know a lot of people who have been married for a long time and they don't have a close relationship. So for me, I've always said, you know, I've always had this thing that tenure don't matter to me, your age don't matter to me, and your title does not matter, not one bit to me. What you're doing with it all is what I'm interested in.
Come on, girl.
And, that's how, you know, that's how I live my life and stuff.
Well,
but I don't want to be married 50 years just to say I'm married for 50 years.
Right.
I want to grow in my relationship and
exactly. Where's the substance?
To your point in that, Izzy, I feel like you guys do, and I bear witness to this because these are my people. They're part of my tribe. They're at the top of my list of my tribe. But these two walk this out. I mean, I watched Dave be quiet and silent in the back and realizing now I've always known he's a powerhouse, but this show has really shown the world that. But I watch him let Izzy be Izzy, that he lets her shine and do her thing. And, you know, sometimes she's out there and all that, but, you know, he loves that. That's his queen. But then I also flip that script and I watch her honor him. And it just blesses me. You know, you can't say a bad word about Dave because you're going to get a black eye. You get knocked out because she's come. You bring an old school Izzy out, but they do a marvelous and masterful job of honoring daily each other. I'm even going back to Dave to start a new business and he's doing all this labor work. And I look up on Facebook and my sis is out there cutting grass and, you know, weed eating and doing all this stuff in 100-degree heat with her man.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
honor.
There you
That's
go.
ride or die stuff
That's
right
there.
Yeah, no, we definitely enjoy doing things together. We're a team. And Dave, tell them about Gracie Thumb, why we cut grass.
Uh-oh.
So, orphanage in Uganda, Africa.
Oh, that's right.
Gracie, I tell them about Facebook.
Hold your mic, bro, because I want to make sure they hear this.
So we partner with March of 22. So we send money every 2 weeks for like food, rent, and stuff like that. Sometimes it's medical. So yeah, we partner with them, and so we've been sponsoring them since March of 2022. It's been a huge blessing on both ends, their end, and obviously our end also. And it just shows how God just blesses us abundantly, you know. have a testimony, like their whole local area where they're at, like their name grown and stuff, and not just uh, not just their popularity or anything like that, but now they have a testimony to share. Like, hey, we just
Wow.
spoke to Grace this morning. It's Pastor Grace, his wife. They have 3 or 4 kids. And at first it was like about 15 kids, so there was like almost 20 kids total. Now he just shared with us like a month ago, a few weeks ago, there was a few families, their houses got tore down, and there was a total of like 5 kids between like 2 or 3 families that he took in. Also, they told the moms, hey, we'll take the kids and take care of them. You guys find somewhere, for yourselves, they'll be fine. So now they have like, I think he said this morning, 21 kids to take care of. We've just been led. To support. And so it's just like I said, it's been an amazing journey. It's been, near to our heart. But hindsight, going back, again, we could call it quits. This way, coming.
Your mic's acting up, Dave. Yeah, no, what you're saying is we wouldn't have stayed consistent throughout the years. We wouldn't be here today, be able to help this family and these 30 orphans,
right,
and these widows and people who have been ousted from the community. We wouldn't be able to make the impact that we're making right now in Uganda. Again, what we have to remember now is that our reason why we're together is way bigger than just me or him or our little feelings. We're here with a bigger purpose, and that's really what drives us now. It's not about us; it's about what we can do for the world, where God calls us to.
Come on.
Created a way the whole way. We were talking to Pastor Grace today, and we were just reminiscing of the last 2 years, and I told him there has been times that we've stayed consistent in what we said we would do for them when we didn't have for ourselves necessarily here. And I know that in the wrong hands, that information can turn into something really negative of, well, how dare you make sure someone else has food when you don't have food yourself, because that goes against how some people live. But we know too much. We've seen too much of God's truth and how he's abundant, and he makes ways. He makes things possible when it's his will. So we don't holding that one shred of fear. We keep showing up, doing what we need to do, and helping where we're called to help. So.
Well, Izzy, Dave, that's called Kingdom Living.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Kingdom Living. And Gene, we have talked about so many times our yeses, personal individual yeses multiplied into powerful situations. AL and I, we just talked about our yeses today, and our yes being connected in the play that we were part of that brought us together as brothers. Man, God in his infinite wisdom just requires you just to say yes. This is a couple,
and sometimes
show up.
Right.
Yeah. Just show up, and sometimes that showing up can happen in the most unusual ways. Gene, I'm sure that you follow R&B, and you follow R&B very much and everything. And this past weekend, not this weekend that we were in, but last weekend, I went down to Winston-Salem, and I literally ran into, I want to say it was on a Saturday or Friday night, Jay King. And for those that know music, Jay King is actually the founder of Club Nouveau and the founder of one of those black organizations and everything along those lines. And it was because of his band getting rained out that we wound up having an hour-long conversation about economics and what he can do to help our economics and what he can do to even help people like you and other musicians that I know that I'm trying to put together that contact. But it's literally because God decided he was going to rain that day, and he decided to walk through the hotel, and his band was like, I need you to talk to that man, meaning me and everything. And we had this conversation with a Grammy Award winner and everything that was not planned. It was not planned at all, but destiny made that happen. And to your point, Coach G and everything. So when destiny is going to be made to happen, you don't have anything to do with it, but just kind of roll with it and let it flow. And I need to maintain that contact so we can all get the rewards from it, including your band and everything. But like I said, it was literally what seemed to be an accident or a moment of providence, but it wasn't. It was intent. I'm sure God in his intimate wisdom was intended for us to be in that place at that time and all along those lines and everything. So that's, I just got to say that can happen as well sometimes. I did have a quick question for Izzy, that coming back to the conversation around relationships, and I think AEL may want to jump on this as well, because we talked about self-sabotage, and one of the things that we did talk about is red flags, and red flags can be very real, because I know that I have ignored red flags, just like I've ignored some of my own self-sabotage and everything. So I just wondered if you could talk to that, because I think that sometimes we use the red flags as part of the self-sabotage, but we also sometimes totally ignore the red flags when we need to heed the red flags that are out there. So I was just wondering if you could speak to that, and if AL had some thoughts about that as well, because I think that we need to understand both of those terms, but also heed them as well.
Gene, I know you got a mouthful on that one too, brother.
Dale, or who's going first?
I mean,
if you'll go first, just ladies first.
Well, for me, I think I was given a lot of the red flags just with my emotional instability. But like I said, knowing now, I didn't know then. It wasn't foreign to him to exist in that type of world. For me, I don't know I guess I don't really know what to say about red flags. I didn't really see, there wasn't really a lot of red flags with Dave. The red flags for me, what I couldn't understand, but they weren't red flags, was the fact that he wouldn't engage with my nonsense. Right. You know, I kind of saw that as a red flag in a sense, because I'm like, he's weak. He's, you know, all these things are in my head where, but it was never he's stand up or he's what a great man. You know, that wasn't coming through at that time. It was other things, but I'm not really sure what to say. Was there a specific question about red flags?
No, just how sometimes we see them, but because we don't want to notice them, that we sometimes ignore them. Because I know that I have ignored some red flags, including red flags from past relationships where people had been hurt by their past relationships and threw up those red flags, but because I was so enthralled in the moment that I ignored the red flags until they literally hit me in the face.
I couldn't understand. Yeah, why he wasn't picking up on the red? Because man, when you act like that, when you have that type of emotional immaturity, you literally are not in control at that moment. You hand over the steering wheel. So by the time I would even be able to acknowledge the behavior I was doing, it's because I was already on the other side of it. And I was like, oh shit, I really just acted like that. And I'm like, he's probably not like that. Yep. He ain't coming back, right? And nope, he'd come back and I'd be like, he must like it, right? That's why when 10 years later, when he's telling me, get help or I'm out, I'm like, when did you switch up? Again, the red flags popping up. What, are you weak? You're not consistent. Like, it was all the trauma stuff coming up. I know. So I was wondering why he wasn't picking up on my red flags. That's more where I was back then. Then when he asked me to
marry, I understand. What's your take on it?
Oh, he's a glutton for punishment. Like, I was so
What's your take on that?
Because my family, I mean, growing up,
my therapist said that shit to me.
Right? I was crazy. They called me crazy. My nickname on the streets was La Loca. I was so unpredictable. Like, once I went there, I went there. It was good to have me on your side.
Right. Gene, you just boiled
over. I hear you. What's your take on that, AL, and everything? Because I know one time when I knew a red flag was going on was when an iron literally flew by my head. So I knew that I was in a red flag situation at that moment when an iron goes flying by your head.
No, I think Gene had something.
Yeah. So the funniest thing is when Izzy said he must be a glutton for punishment, Do you know that I had two therapists ask me that damn question? Gina, you glutton for punishment?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't think so. No, I'm not a. And I had to sit back. And in hindsight, I'm like, damn, I really am. 6 weeks into this blitz ending through the voicemail, she slapped the shit out of me over a conversation about sex. And I knew I don't like, this is not my type of situation, but I stayed because I thought savior complex. Enough. If I sacrifice, if I do this, I do that, or if I basically sacrifice myself, she'll see how great I am and she'll change. And it just doesn't always go like that. Like Izzy, that's rare breed right there. She realized her fault and she did the work. But a
Yeah,
lot of people
that's queen stuff right there.
have these characteristics and habits. Right, exactly. And she realized how that was not positive for her long term and for her relationship and for her children. So she did the change. A lot of people don't want to do the work. And I mean,
Right.
in the fact that you may have been emotionally immature, you were mature enough to realize, hey, this ain't that. This is not what I should continue doing. This habit is not
I think he
Go
froze
ahead,
up a
Dale.
little bit.
Go ahead.
So
like, hey,
Yeah, I think he
He's
froze
on.
up. If you want to take it, AL.
okay. So for me, red flags. A red flag to me is a non-negotiable, and so a red flag is like the red light at the stop sign. Like that means like stop, halt, wait, no, no more. And so what I hear in you all's relationship is that some of the things that you thought were a red flag for him were just the yellow light, which was maybe some caution, slow down. Let me see what's going on. Let me evaluate the landscape and see how I'm going to handle and address it. And so when it comes to self sabotage, that can come into play as Mark said, is we can look and we can say, okay, well, look, I just did something. It was horrible. Red flag on me. Go ahead and throw me out of the game, not realizing that the person that you're in a relationship with is willing to give you a little more grace. And to them, that was just the yellow light. Okay, hold on, let me slow down a little bit. Let me see what's going on. And so then it's up on you to accept his willingness to give you grace. It's like, okay, he's giving me
Right.
some grace
Right.
here.
That's so good.
And then not abusing it. And so that would be my take on it. We always talk about the red flag, but there's also that yellow, that caution. And I think that's where grace comes in. And it's very much needed in a relationship if you want that to last long term. There has to be grace. Everything can't be the color red.
Well, see, I want to throw in that mix that it wasn't the color red, but it was actually the color green. Mom just hit on it when she said he chose to love you and not engage. For me, from what I hear and see from these two, that those interactions were green lights for Dave because of love. Underneath all of the muck and the mire and all of the drama and all of her positioning and posturing, he loved that woman and he saw the finished product of that woman. He saw, as the God says, that he saw the beginning from the end. He saw the end version of this spectacular woman that he knew someday was going to be his wife. So Dave's got to speak for himself, but from what I'm hearing, I think he saw green lights there. Yes, we've got to work on some things. To your point, Al. Yes, I got to be cautious. To Izzy's point, yeah, these might be some red lights and stop signs for me, but I feel like Dave is actually seeing green lights. That if I can overcome these issues, I have the diamond in the rough that I saw from day one. She might need a little polishing, a little cleaning, but if I can stand, you said 10 years. I think your brother, the conversation you had with your brother, your sister, they said, what would this look like in 10 years? I think Dave just looked into the future and said, if I could just hold on here and clean her up a little bit, I will get that valuable diamond that nobody else has that I can hold to myself. Speak to that, my brother.
Coach G, I have to jump. I don't want to disrupt the stream. I've got a truck pulling up. Like we were
Oh,
saying, I just got to move. So no, it it was nice to meet you, Mr. and Mrs. Black. I definitely admire your relationship, and it's something that I aspire to have in my life as well. And so it's nice meeting you, Coach G. Appreciate you, man. But I got to drop off real quick.
okay.
All
So
right.
Dave, you close us out with last thoughts, my man. Thank you, AL. Because I know Mark's saying our time's about up. So close us out, man. We've kind of talked in circles around your thoughts and feelings, but we can't speak for you, brother. So we're gonna give you
Yeah,
the last word to
you
speak
know,
for yourself.
like I said last week, it's easy getting married, right? It's hard staying married,
Right.
And I've met people. I worked with all kind of people that they've been married. They've given up or whatever hasn't worked out in their marriage, so they're calling it quits. Either mutual or one sided. You gotta dig deep. You gotta dig deep and ask yourself, what do I want? Not what everybody's saying over here, over there. What do I want? Ask yourself that. Go to the mirror, look in the mirror. What do I want? And so
You wanted some Miss Bella.
yeah, no, I loved her deeply.
Some Miss Bella.
I was like, and so I'm like, what do I want? Do I want to call it quits and jump back in a dating game? And then I got to put work in over here. And okay, what happens if that doesn't work out? It's just like, there's always variables. That's one thing in life. It's always changes. That's one thing you can count on. And so I was willing to invest in her because she couldn't see it herself. Like she said, she was self-hygiene, she was already throwing red flags out on herself. She's disqualifying herself from the game, and it's just like, hey, you give yourself a little grace, but in order for her to realize that, I had to show her that.
Well, I appreciate that, brother, man.
Was telling me left and right from her side of the family, hey, you just might want to pack your bags and, head for the hills. I wasn't willing to do that yet.
Right.
And so, yeah, you just got to put in the work. And like I said last week, it's not going to look pretty. It's not going to look the same as if you look to your left or your right. You got to know what's right for you and what's right for your relationship, or your marriage. And just, you got to communicate, like Isabel said a little earlier in the show. Hey, let's handle this right now. That's me. I don't got time to be going on, dragging out for next 2 months.
Next week.
Others head for the next 5 years, and stuff. And let's just, but you have to have that, like I said last week, you got to have that common ground, right?
Right.
Like Isabel said a little earlier in the show, hey, I want to handle this stuff right now. That's Dave. Isabel's like, whoa. I need to process it. Let's process it. Let's say, hey, let's talk about it this afternoon, tomorrow morning after coffee, during coffee. You got to have that. That's where you have that common ground. And I don't mean, and there's some times where you might just have to agree to disagree.
Right.
It's not somebody's right, somebody's wrong. It's just communicating.
Yep. There's power in that. Yeah.
And sometimes it's this misunderstanding sometimes, and I'll say a quick tidbit. When we was going to marriage counseling, I remember I used to tell Isabel, hey, I don't understand. Or no, what I said is, I don't get it. And so she was like, that would just infuriate her, right? She would get pissed off. And so she took it as, when David would say, oh, I don't get it, she would take it as like, I'm calling her stupid.
Right. Okay.
Right. And so I'm like, no, that means like, I don't understand. And so like, you got to break it down sometimes, and so it don't mean somebody's dogging the other person. You got to make sure you're both understanding what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I think Mom said it best, man. And she summarized what you said in that comment. Love conquered it all, from both sides. And we here on Unbreakable Souls are honored and blessed by your presence here today and last week. I think it's even richer and fuller this week than even more, than last week. So we can't say thank you enough for coming out and joining and being with us again today, man. You guys brought the fire again, and you gave us the blueprint. You gave us we finally dug in and got the secret sauce. I feel like today of relationships and how to make them work during hard times and overcoming trauma. So, but we are at our time, and this has been your boy, Coach G, and I think Gene is trying to join us back. But my boy Gene has a brand new song that he's releasing that we're going to close out with today. He's got a new video that we're going to be closing out with today, and kudos to him. This man's creativity is just off the charts, and I'm proud and honored to say that I know him, that he's one of my brothers. So we know AL had to leave out. He had some things to do. But again, this is your boy, Coach G, on Unbreakable Souls. Take us out of here, Mark.
Shards of glass up in the creases. Sold parts of my soul to appease your demons. What the hell to bring you peace? And my heart lay tossed to the ground, broken and neglected by you. Now you avoid me like the dark, and I'm done playing your fool. Almost died when you left me. All this pain would break me. Hear these tears would tell me. When I saw you release me. Your lovers don't escape me. So you deserve to miss me. You deserve to miss me. You deserve to miss me. Hurt and confused. Why do I deserve your hatred? As a villain I've been painted. Spitting venom in the mist, weaving lies as you spin, manufactured reality. Geppetto's puppet string. Maybe if I submit to this crucifixion, I would survive this wretched inquisition.